Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. It's my privilege to review another edition of a book we've reviewed in the past from Spiramus Press. I think it's a very important book, bearing in mind what is happening at the moment in the United Kingdom concerning our membership of the European Union, all the financial implications therein, because we are heading for a major political event here with the referendum on whether we stay in or leave the EU. So the book I'm looking at today is very timely. It's the new edition, the fourth edition of Introduction to European Tax Law, Direct Taxation. We all know what that means. Direct taxation is income tax. We're looking at the overall European picture. Now, clearly, if there are changes to take place, we are going to be seeing some very interesting things happening should there be a Brexit. But we won't cross that bridge until we arrive at it. In the meantime, we have the four editors on very high form as usual, through Spiramus Press, producing this excellent book. Now, the editors of the book, and I'll mention them by name now, do apologise if I pronounce the names incorrectly, Michael Lang, Pasquale Pistone, Josef Schuch, and Claus Staringer. Now, Elizabeth and I talked about this review. She's written most of it and I'm delivering it. But we did have a discussion about what should be included in the review, which will be on the web and in the journals. And we've given it the title for our review, A Concise Text on Direct Taxation Within the European Union, now in a new fourth edition. Well, we'll talk about what's in the book in a minute. Let's have a look at it first. It was a paperback, yellow cover as usual. There we go, and then you've got there the spine, and then you've got on the back just some general blurb really about what's in the book. There's a short index at the back, and it's page numbering, not a long index at all. And then after that you've got some tables of ECJ case law, which are listed there. You can see the names of the cases and the other information there. If we go to the front of the book, here's the main front page there. And then there's a preface from Vienna, 19th of November 2015, from the authors, which is always worth reading to give you an idea of where we are at the moment with this book. What they say here is, whilst keeping up with its traditional concise analysis of European direct taxation, a new fourth edition of the primer contains some significant changes. They call it a primer. It's available, of course, as an e-book as well, and there's quite a lot of information there. PDF, you can see all the information. There is, of course, a website which is again mentioned on the back and in the cover there too. There are prefaces to the earlier editions, and then we get into the content section as a whole. There are only 9 chapters, and you can see the names of the people who have been brought in to contribute. So you've got basically the editors, and then you've got the list of authors, of which there are quite a large number. Then you've got a useful abbreviations list, which I do think assists, because there are a lot of abbreviations in Europe. It's always useful to get an idea of what you've got. Then you've got the chapter headings running all the way through, chapters 1 and 2. And then it goes straight in to the first chapter. And you see there is a standard footnoting throughout and numbering at the side. So you should be able to find things reasonably quickly. And then, for instance, chapter 3 again, it lists what's in the chapter, and then you go all the way through into the chapter itself. So you've basically got a detailed contents right at the beginning of each chapter. So instead of having the actual individual chapters, you know what you're looking for within the individual chapter, because the index at the back is not a particularly detailed index. I hope that is of assistance. That makes it a bit easier for chapter 9, for instance. Very short index there for what's in the chapter. And then looking specifically, that's dealing specifically with the aims and history of the Arbitration Convention. There we are. That is the book. This is what we say about it. Students and practitioners within Europe or even outside it will find this handy text on direct taxation under European law extremely helpful, we think. Published in a compact paperback format, say it's also PDF format as well, by Spiramus Press. It's now going into its 4th edition, having been updated approximately every 2 years since 2010. And the book's longevity is ample testament, we feel, to its general popularity and reliability over the past decade. Spiramus, by the way, have carved out an enviable, not inevitable, it is inevitable, but it's an enviable reputation for producing comprehensive yet succinct and accessible texts, mainly, of course, covering legal, financial and business matters. And I think they're becoming quite a leader in that, because some of the works they produce are actually eminently readable, which does make life a lot easier for the very, very overworked advisor. Reflecting on the steady but relentless pace of change in European Union tax law then, the book is a compendium of articles written by some 15 contributors, all experts in this field and all based at WU, in other words, Vienna University of Economics and Business. Wien, in other words, is the W, Vienna. I know that's confusing to those of you who don't speak any other languages apart from English. It's the University of Vienna. This compact text placed their impressive research and commentary at your fingertips, so you don't have to hunt for it yourself. At the same time, of course, it steers you in the right direction as and when you need to research further. The new edition is described as more than a mere update, as it contains, for example, an enhanced analysis of the implications of the European Union Charter of Fundamental Rights for direct taxes and much more, including a new chapter on European tax coordination, which sounds pretty good, but in fact we haven't really moved that much farther forward. I can see it moving forward, but it's taking a long time. Other new material includes discussions generally on transparency and on the further developments that have emerged in the area of state aid. So I think that's important. There are other books on state aid, European Union state aid, which of course are very relevant as well. The book should certainly generate, we think, considerable interest in the United Kingdom. Obviously the issue which I raised right at the beginning is it's the question of our future either in or out of the EU, which is top of the current political agenda, with a referendum possibly going to be in the middle of 2016, and I'm recording this in February 2016, so time is moving on. With this in mind then, and rather alarmingly for the EU, for the UK as a member state of the EU, the book commences with a section on the nature of the European Union legal system under the subheading of supremacy. Not going to help the anti-EU people at all, this one, but it asserts that a provision of European Union law takes precedence over a national constitutional provision. And that really is part of the big issue, not just about the EU, but about the Human Rights Act and everything else, and the right effectively, which goes all the way down, stretches down history, the right of self-determination of what we want to do. Now that issue hasn't gone away. It's called nationalism sometimes, it's called all sorts of different things. But in essence, it's saying why should someone from another country impose something on this country? And that really is where the argument is. However, this is about an introduction to European tax laws, direct taxation, and we're looking for harmonisation. So the question really is not so much about taking precedence and being imposed. It's more about trying to get some sort of agreement. And I think that is the way that one can try to put it forward as an issue. This book does help, of course, tremendously. Apparently then, the subsequent jurisprudence of the Court of Justice of the European Union, that's the CJEU as it's now known, not the ECJ as we used to know it, the EJEU, confirms, quote, that the national administration is also required to ensure the supremacy of European Union law over national law. And there's the rub. That's what the problem is about with the Brits. And not just the Brits, it's other people too. But that's our issue here, and it's not going away, because there's been steady erosion over the decades with the case law since we joined the EU on the 1st of January 1973. Well, you have certainly been told. Now you know that it is supreme, or at least reminded, although the footnotes indicate that this utterance actually dates back to 1999, and that is the case. It's been with us actually for a long time, and I think successive politicians have wanted to avoid talking about it. But the fact is, it does take precedence, unless you claw back the rights to your own self-determination. And that's really where we are at the beginning of 2016, with a referendum on the horizon, and where we're going with exactly this sort of concept, which is really at the heart of the European ideal, because it's dealing with money and it's dealing with our transactions and what we're doing as a member state within the EU. So let's conclude by saying some changes here should and must ultimately be made. And clearly that's what we're embarking on with Mr Cameron's attempts to renegotiate part of the membership deal without affecting change to the treaties, which of course is another big problem. However, notwithstanding all of these concerns regarding this or any other related matters, issues of taxation do remain, as I've said, central to the future of the European Union. And that's going to be the way it is, whether we go out or remain, because whatever happens, we will have to see where the direction will be going with European tax laws themselves, because there's bound to be some effect, whether we're inside or outside the EU, in later years. But that's possibly for a future review. Finally, whether you're a student or experienced tax practitioner or an accountant, or indeed anyone looking for a convenient and concise source of information on the foundations of European tax law, this book, with its focus on direct taxation, is definitely the answer for you. Thank you anyway to all the editors and contributors for a splendid publication. The publication date is actually cited at 2016, so it's pretty new as I record this in February. Look at the book again. There's the front yellow cover, and then you've got the actual spine there, and then you've got the back of the book. We've just opened it, a nice little overview of the procedural treatment of state aid. State aid being another controversial and emotive area for many people. You've then got, for instance, Chapter 5, the Parent Subsidiary Directive. And then after that you've got the actual... You see how much detail is in it? We've got the footnotes there all the way through. There's a lot of information, but it's not a difficult book to follow. And then do remember that the index is a bit short at the back, and it's easier depending on what you're looking for. You've got your basic contents there, and then after the list of authors and the abbreviations, you've then got the chapter heading and then the actual index to the chapter heading itself. That's where you will find probably what you're looking for. Thank you to all concerned, and a big thank you to Spiramus for continuing to provide us with these excellent books. Very grateful to you and everybody involved, and thank you once again for a tremendous contribution. It makes our lives a lot easier as advisors in this area. Thank you. Bye-bye.